Good afternoon, you're very welcome along to World Cup Daily. It is day one of the World Cup 2018 and I regret to inform you, ladies and gentlemen, that World Cup fever is a real thing. Symptoms include getting up for Russia versus Saudi Arabia. I'm unbelievably excited for it. Phil Egan joins me in studio and he's unbelievably excited for it as well.
Bring it on.
I don't know what's happened here. At the start of the World Cup build-up a couple of months ago, I'm starting to think to myself, this could be the worst opening game in the history of the World Cup. When I look at it now, I'm like, bring it on, bring on 4 o'clock, bring on kickoff, because this looks unbelievably attractive. I don't know what's gone wrong with me.
See, we've been starved of football for a few weeks. Like, we've been watching friendlies, but this is the World Cup. And if you go back to opening games of previous tournaments, they've been stinkers. This could be a classic for all we know.
Absolutely. I like your little segue there, because opening games of previous tournaments is exactly what we're going to chat about on today's show. We're going to be chatting about it all the way till about 1:15 this afternoon. If you've got any memories from the opening days of tournaments, feel free to tweet us at Off The Ball or comment on the stream below. We've got a poll going on Twitter at the moment to vote for the best opening game in a World Cup tournament. We're going to start with Italia 90 in terms of our reflections, because as you can see in front of Phil here this afternoon, we've got his World Cup sticker book from Italia 90.
Yeah.
Your first memory is probably the opening game of Italia 90?
So you got to remember, I've been collecting all the pieces for this for months. You had to go down to the local newsagent and get them, and I've been reading. There was no pullouts back then. There was no 100-page pullout and you can just get stats on any player. This is where I got it all from. So I'm looking and I have, I see Diego Maradona is on the front there. He's obviously basically won the World Cup for Argentina on his own in 1986. I've read so much about him. First game, 1990. It's the first World Cup game I can remember vividly. They're playing Cameroon. So I'm thinking, Maradona, Argentina, this will be easy. Who are Cameroon?
Loads of lower league French players for Cameroon.
Yeah, Cameroon weren't on the back of my copybook in school where they used to have a list of all the capital cities. Cameroon weren't there. So I just presumed Argentina would rock up and win. How wrong I was.
What were you feeling at that moment when you started to realise that Diego Maradona wasn't actually invincible?
Well, the reason he wasn't invincible was because Cameroon players kicked the living crap out of a lot of the Argentina players. I think the most famous is the Claudio Caniggia, but Maradona himself got de Jong'd, is how I would describe it.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people forget. The de Jong incident, I'm not quite sure who was the Cameroonian player who actually did that, but he got properly de Jong'd right into the midriff, really, and I think there was no punishment whatsoever for the Cameroon player.
You know, back then it was just like, just walk it off, son, you know?
Yeah, like the context of Italia 90 and refereeing, I like, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think there was like a new FIFA directive brought in to actually clean up the game, to stop kind of rash challenges, to stop really a lot of aggression, really, to allow players like Maradona to flourish. And in that first game then, De Jong goes in and he doesn't get sent off. But obviously the Caniggia thing was just an absolute blatant red card, and even at that point there was still some...
Do you know, technically it was only a second
Yeah, good
yellow,
point.
Although it's Benjamin Massing who gets the red card, but the referee produces the red card and then gives the yellow after, but it was meant to be a second yellow. But the best thing about it is he's absolutely butchered Caniggia, who's evaded a couple of tackles on the way, but Massing butchers them, and then he loses his boot. Such is the impact of the kick on Caniggia. And then the Argentina players come over, because it's in the 89th minute. Cameroon are winning 1-0. The Argentina players come over to the referee. They come over to Massing. He's trying to get his boot back, and someone pushes them, and then he kicks out with the foot that has no boot on it. It's just comical stuff. At that stage as well, they've already had they ended up at 9 men.
Yeah.
They hang on for the win. It's incredible.
For another 5 minutes. You've described it beautifully there, but one man who might do justice to it as well is Barry Davies. Let's hear the BBC commentary from 1990.
Caniggia, they've got to get back now, Cameroon. Caniggia leads the charge. Koundé pulls out of the challenge. Not a good one by Ndip. Referee allows him to go on. Terrible challenge by Massing. It was an attempted block then by 3 players. Massing loses a boot and is lucky to stay on the pitch, if he is going to stay on the pitch. And I don't think he will. It's the red one coming out. Quite right. Quite right.
And there we go. That was the first game of Italia 90. It's weird how that's remembered more than the absolute calamity in goalkeeping that allowed Cameroon to score that goal. A header from, I can't remember who.
Owen Bayek.
Well, there you go, you got it right in front of you. Like, it's strange how it was just the violence from Cameroon in that game that's remembered. I guess I guess there is a context of it though as well, that Maradona was the kind of favourite player of the entire world at that point, particularly people of your own age. And I do suspect that Maradona is going to be brought up a little bit later on in the show, because we are going to have Nathan Murphy and Darren Cleary in studio a little bit later on to go through their favourite opening games in the tournament. We're going to get John Duggan's thoughts in just a moment. Just to tell you how you can get in touch, you can tweet us at Off The Ball. You can get your questions in for Eoin Blanche of BoyleSports as well. He'll be joining us a little bit later on. You can hop on to offtheball.com/BoyleSports right now, and there's some brilliant offers there for new and existing customers. 25-1 is the odds they're offering if you spend €1 on the Portugal versus Spain match for any goal to be scored in that game on Friday for new customers. For existing customers then, and for new customers of course as well, Russia versus Saudi Arabia tonight. You can get evens on that game for Russia to win that match, which, as we'll kind of discuss over the next couple of minutes, is outrageous odds really when you look at how everything is in Russia's favour. As I say though, it's time to go to Russia. John Duggan, how are things?
Lads, I'm not going to do a dance for you.
Where's the hat?
The hat is gone. You only get the hat on special occasions.
Yeah, I think we saw some authority walk behind you there. It seems that you're in a more of a serious zone, dare I say. You're near the Lushniki Stadium this afternoon, John?
Yeah, I'm near the metro station, and there's a huge carnival atmosphere behind me. But yeah, it's really gearing up now. It's not long to go, just over 3 hours to go until the opening game of the greatest show on earth, the World Cup 2018, Russia against Saudi Arabia, the host nation. A host nation has never lost an opening game of a World Cup, and a host nation has only once failed to get out of the group stage. That was in 2010, South Africa. So yeah, I think we would like to see a home win. I'd like to see the Russians win today. But there's a great colour around the ground and lots of different fans. I mean, I think if Ireland were here to play a game maybe somewhere else in the next few days, we'd be possibly going to the opening game as well. So I've seen Colombians, I've seen Tunisians, I've seen Japanese, I've seen all different types of nationalities here around Luzhniki Metro Station. So let's see how we get on.
We'll touch on that game, and more than touch, and we'll get into it a little bit more in just a few moments. But we've got to chat to you about your earliest opening day memories, John. Is it your first World Cup memory, an opening day, and if so, from what year?
I don't think it was an opening day, but it was an early game. It was 1986 was my first World Cup I really remember, and it was because there's something that happens to you when you're about that age. 7 years of age I was at the time, going on 8, and it's like a light bulb went off my head, and I wanted to know everything about football, and I wanted to know everything about all sport. I got the Panini sticker album from 1986, and because I was so interested in what was going on, I was very interested in the 82 World Cup, even looking back. And I remember the Italian jerseys being kind of glossy and blue and shiny, and they won the World Cup that year. So I kind of followed Italy, and they drew with Argentina 1-1, and I was disappointed. Maradona scored in that game, but then my kind of love kind of changed during the tournament towards Argentina and the brilliant play that came from Maradona. Of course, there's later World Cups you remember things more vividly, but the 1986 World Cup was one of the great World Cups, and I think the final was a brilliant, exciting game, 3-2 to Argentina against West Germany. But that was my favourite World Cup memory, given it was really the first one.
Yeah, you think back to how good Maradona was in that, John, and that's what kind of disappointed me then when I tuned in to the 1990 World Cup and that Cameroon-Argentina game. He wasn't as good. Now, there was talk that Maradona had an ingrown toenail for that tournament, and he had a few issues as well. And I remember he even missed a penalty against Yugoslavia later in the tournament. But in '86, that's when he won it, and that's all the talk about Argentina for this tournament. Messi has to deliver if he wants to be remembered the way Maradona was, winning a World Cup single-handedly. A lot of pressure on Argentina. We didn't really talk about them much yesterday. I don't know what your feeling is about them going into this tournament. We know Sampaoli has had a bit of time now to seeking to get his formation in tune with them. But I just wonder, is the pressure not on Messi, but the other players? They don't want to let him down.
Well, I think that Messi's got nothing to prove. I don't think he's a similar type of player to Maradona, first of all. I think he's a deeper line player. Maradona was really ran the show from the middle. Messi's not that type of player. Messi's they've had 3 finals, and we can see the anguish of Messi giving up the game with Argentina before obviously being coaxed back. He got them to the final nearly on his own in 2014, even though he didn't score in the knockout stages. But I do think he is fresher. I think that Barcelona winning the title early on helps. I think that Di Maria and Aguero were crocked 4 years ago. They're not this time. I think 92 goals were scored between Higuain, Dybala, Messi and Aguero in the last season. So I think from an attacking viewpoint, I would agree with you, Phil, that I think that the load can be shared. My concern is, first of all, that Sampaoli is an attacking-minded coach in the first place, but he might not have the resources in terms of defensive midfielders, centre-backs, to make sure that Messi and co can run riot. And that's why they're in a very tricky group. I think that it's very difficult to say what's going to happen with Argentina, because people will go by their qualifying, but Sampaoli wasn't there for a lot of that. Messi salvaged their qualifying with a hat-trick against Ecuador. So they're a bit of an unknown quantity in a group that is tricky. Croatia are very talented, if a bit troubled. Nigeria, there can be mercurial, and Iceland, we know will park the bus and will have the support. So it's really the knockout stages. But I think Messi's done everything he can. Can he do any more in terms of winning on his own? Like Argentina did have good players in '86. They had Burchaga, Valdano, they good defenders. Not elite defenders, but they had enough there in a more physical game at the time to get through. So Argentina are one of the enigmas of the tournament. I think we can pretty much safely say that Brazil and France and Germany will be their best in the quarterfinals. Argentina, we don't really know.
Yeah, for sure. Tonight's game then, John, Russia against Saudi Arabia. It's looking like one-way traffic in the betting leading up to this game. Russia, obviously, there's a BoyleSports offer at evens for any customers at the moment. You've got offtheball.com/BoyleSports for that one. Is it going to be as straightforward as a lot of people are thinking tonight for them, John?
I'm not so sure. I mean, Fedor Smolov didn't even make the World Cup under Fabio Capello in 2014, and now he's their key hope. So they've a lot of. We spoke earlier on the AM show about Sergei Ignashevich coming back into the team as centre back, the most capped player in the history of both Soviet and Russian football at 38 years of age. That's not a great sign. They're the worst ranked team in the tournament, 70. They haven't won their last 7 matches. Saudi Arabia, a bit of an unknown quantity. Okay, they did well in friendlies against, I think it was Algeria they beat, and they played well against Italy. But they're very much an unknown quantity with a lot of players that really don't play outside the Middle East at all. And they've got a poor record in the World Cup. Since that 94 World Cup, when they've won 2 matches, they've had a poor record in the World Cup. And I would expect Russia to win. And they got they got the best group they could have had as hosts that have struggled. But they're looking to the likes of I think it's Alexander Golovin, who has been playing for CSKA Moscow. Arsene Wenger praised him when they played in the Europa League against him. I think they're looking to him. Yuri Zhirkov used to play for Chelsea. Maybe he's not the light of other days. Alan Zagoev had a great Euro 2012, but has been a bit injury prone the last few years. And Alexei Miranchuk he's got a twin brother, Anton, who's also in the squad. Miranchuk had a really good season with Lokomotiv Moscow, who won the Russian Premier League title. So he will probably be playing behind Smolov. But I think going forward they'll be okay. They generally tend to play Stanislav Chercheshev, the coach, was always a 3-man at the back man, but I think he's gone back to 4 now, because I just think they're not sure if they've got the pace or defensive solidity to be able to cope with this. But I think that we should be able to cope with Saudi Arabia. I think 1-11 picks us out for Saudi Arabia. I don't know many of these guys that well. I don't know you guys, but I don't know many of these guys that well. Most of them play in the Middle East.
What about the Russian fans? Is there many Russian fans around you, and what's their feeling going into this tournament? Would last 16 be good for them?
I think the last 16 would be acceptable. I think the Egypt game will be the crucial game. I think Uruguay will top the group with the talent of Suarez, Cavani, and the solid Atletico Madrid defenders that they have. I think Uruguay-Egypt will be a fascinating game tomorrow. I think Egypt against Russia will be a key match in terms of determining who's going to finish second. But I think with Spain and Portugal on the other side of the draw, whatever's gone on with the pedigree, I still think that, like Spain and Portugal, whoever it is will fancy their chances of beating the second place team in Group A, if that is Russia. So I think if Russia respectively can get out of Group A, then I think they'll be happy enough, and I think there won't be any shame in that. I think Vladimir Putin said that the biggest winners of the World Cup will be the organisers, not necessarily the team. Have I seen much around here? No, I've actually seen more kind of Egyptians and Colombians and different nationalities. I've seen some Russians, but more in terms of the Central Asian Russians than the Muscovites.
John Duggan, you were going to stand by for just a moment because we're going to get into some of the odds ahead of tonight and indeed ahead of the tournament as a whole, because Leon Blanche at BoyleSports will be joining us momentarily. Before that, just one of your comments from Facebook. James Class said, Maradona won the World Cup for Argentina on his own. Incredible player for sure, but just like Roy Keane dragged Ireland to the 2002 World Cup on his own, I never liked those players doing it on their own statements, which is a fair point, I guess.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that.
And also, Fergal Keeney asks us, any good tip for top scorer? Timo Werner, Mane, Kane even? Well, Fergal, I'm not going to answer that one because, as I say, we've got Leon in studio who's much more in a better place to give you an answer to that one. We'll get to that in just a moment. But before all that, our other man on the ground in Russia was settling in nicely. If last night's chat was anything to go by, have a look at this.
I think in general, they know exactly how they're going to play. They've got the calibre of players that's going to get them the results on the pitch anyway. So, yeah, the only downside is the relationship. How close were they to Lopetegui? That could be a key issue. I don't know. I really don't know, Joe.
The best part of this thus far is that someone's just walked out of your hotel room on the screen there.
Someone's just been doing me bed. Someone's. Yeah, so it's mad stuff here what's going on, honestly. Mad stuff in Russia, honestly.
Sorry, radio listeners, I don't want to give you an image that you don't need. So we're talking to Kev, and it looks like a standard, suitably nice hotel, but someone just walked out the door carrying bed sheets, so that was the bloke doing your bed.
Well, do you want to tell you what he's done, right? So I was downstairs in reception.
Look, it's your privacy. You'd say as much as you're comfortable with.
Let me tell you this, what he's done, right? So the lads come just before you came online before, so he came and knocked at the door, and they said to me downstairs, look, you've got 2 twin beds in your room, we're going to put them together and make you a nice big bed. I said, oh yeah, great. So I've come up to the room, so I've got the bed's been made up as a king bed as it is. Great. So what the fella's come up and done, now he's turned it back to 2 singles.
Oh, for God's
sake. So he's
sake.
killed me. What is it's amateur out here in Moscow? What can I say?
So this poor fella's come up and turned your king back into 2 singles.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to call a reception in 10 minutes, he's going to be back up again.
Joe, only you do that. I wouldn't act like a diva and do that. No, I wouldn't do that. No. You know that wouldn't be the case.
Kevin Kilban there settling in nicely to his hotel room somewhere in Russia. We'll hear more from Kevin, of course, throughout the tournament, something that doesn't involve kind of comedy around his hotel room, I hope, at some point or another. He has landed in Moscow, I can confirm. He is safe and sound. I've seen on his Snapchat story firsthand, Red Square and all of that. Leon Blanche of BoyleSports joins me in studio. How are things?
Morning, how are you? Good afternoon, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you excited for this?
Yeah, look, I'm looking forward to the World Cup finally getting underway. It's been a long build-up. I think it'll really kick off tomorrow night when Portugal play Spain. But the hosts have got a nice, easy game you would hope for them this afternoon.
Yeah, before we get into what's going to happen tonight and some more of the outright stuff, you mentioned Portugal, Spain there, offtheball.com/BoyleSports right now. If you want to become a new customer to Boyles, what are the odds on that game? Because they're pretty amazing.
I mean, listen, we're basically giving money away. It's for the first 250 people, 25 to 1 for a goal to be scored in Portugal against Spain. It's a 1 to 9 chance originally. So I don't know how many percentage points we're increasing it by, but 25 to 1, offtheball.com/BoyleSports. A goal, anyone to score in Portugal and Spain.
Just as well, there's a
few
that's
going to happen.
Handy players on the pitch.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's free money, but we're trying to look after people who watch Off the Ball and people who, of course, that should open up a new BoyleSports account. So offtheball.com/BoyleSports, 25 to 1 for a goal to be scored. Spain against Portugal, the first 250 people.
Nice one. We will get into tonight, as I say, in just a moment. We still have John Duggan on the line because we want to kind of remind people of the outright betting and the top goal scorer markets as well at the moment. John, we might actually go straight across to you. I'm not sure who you're looking at in terms of the outright market. With BoyleSports, you can get Brazil at 4 to 1, France at 6 to 1, Argentina at 9 to 1, Germany at 9 to 2, Spain at 13 to 2 as your top 5 there, John.
Brazil all the way, lads. This is Brazil's World Cup. In my mind, Neymar, Coutinho, Gabriel Jesus, a good coach, good organisation. I think they get momentum. I think they've been doing well in the warm up to the tournament, and I think Brazil at 4 to 1 are my tip for the tournament. So let's tell us how. Oh, Yogo Benito.
It's all going to be okay with Brazil, is what John is saying. It's hard to argue with him, especially after what's gone on over the last 24 hours in Spain, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I think Brazil under Tite, they definitely have a coach who seems to be galvanising the squad. I think the entire 23 would run through a brick wall for him. They'll be a lot tighter at the back. We all remember that 7-1 debacle against Germany in the semi-final. A lucky offtheball.com viewer and listener has got 10 grand of a free bet on Brazil at 9 to 2, courtesy of ourselves at BoyleSports. So he will certainly be happy with what happened to Spain. And I think Brazil, if you look at their kind of group and look at their route through, they should definitely make at least the semi-finals, and then it's anybody's tournament. But I give Brazil a huge chance. The Germans, not so much this time around. They won it, of course, 4 years ago. Their second favourite at 9-2. But I think if this French squad can come together, and I think Deschamps is well capable of gelling all these players. I think at 6-1, the French will see many, many people's money. And I just think if you were looking at an outsider, maybe Uruguay. I think with Suarez and Cavani, I think they've got two wily strikers who can score goals. And I think this tournament, you're going to have to score goals if you want to proceed to the latter stages of the competition.
Absolutely. We're going to get into like the bracket of the whole thing in a little while with you, Leon, as well. But you look at Uruguay's draw as the main factor as to why they can go deep in this competition, because we all know how Portugal start competitions. We all know how they're not great in the World Cup. If Uruguay top that group, then they've got a path carved out for their own doing to the quarterfinals. So 28-1 for Uruguay is an outside chance there. They're the definition of a dark horse, really, aren't they, John? I mean, you can talk about dark horses all you want. You can talk about Peru, you can talk about Denmark, etc., but they're not really dark horses because they can't win the thing, whereas Uruguay are the very definition of that. I'm not sure who your dark horse is for World Cup 2018.
It's written on the page here, Brazil with Uruguay second.
Right, okay.
So I'm in complete agreement with Leon. Great minds, Leon, think alike. Uruguay 28-1 with BoyleSports.
Yeah,
they're going to top the group, right? They'll probably be playing Portugal in the second round, who I think I might struggle in this Euros with an age in defence. Sorry, World Cup. Get the right tournament. After winning the Euros, what I meant. So, when you get to a quarter final, anything can happen. It could go to penalties. You just don't know. They've obviously got the strike force. Maybe maybe not at their peak that they were a few years ago, Cavani and Suarez, but like two good defenders and young midfielders coming through. I think it's very difficult, to be picking teams maybe to reach the semi-finals or whatever on an each-way basis. I'd often maybe think about, well, can I pick Brazil and France to play each other in the final? That's something I bet I'd be interested in. So, a small bit each way in Uruguay. I think Colombia and Croatia would also interest me as middle-ranking teams, but Brazil and France would be the top two, maybe to reach the final. Brazil are my outright tip, and Uruguay my each-way bet. From then on in, it follows that, okay, who am I interested in for Golden Boot? Gabriel Jesus is 14-1. Who am I interested in for Golden Ball? Philippe Coutinho is 25-1. So a lot of the time these things can accelerate and multiply. And if it goes wrong for you, it goes very wrong. So sometimes people might say, you know what, I'm going to tip Brazil for the thing or back Brazil for the thing, but I might actually pick Kylian Mbappe or Antoine Griezmann for best player of the tournament, that kind of thing. So, or Messi for top scorer. So sometimes people can hedge a bit. Yeah. But if you go all in, you can go all in on all three main markets: the outright market, the Golden Boot market, and the Golden Ball market.
Yeah, it's kind of like betting on Willie Mullins' horses for the duration of Cheltenham. Really, can go all in.
Cavani has to be a good shout for the Golden Boot, just given Uruguay's group.
25-1.
I presume he'll take penalties as well. I know I'm obsessed with players that take penalties, but
important.
Just if you can get a head start, just a couple of goals, and he does take free kicks. Suarez won't stop him taking free kicks like Neymar did at PSG. So I think Cavani would be a good shout for Golden Boot.
Yeah, and I think he's going to play every minute of every game.
Yeah,
barring an injury. And I think Suarez linking up with Cavani, I think that could be lethal. And as John already alluded to, their group, in terms of winning it, they'll play Portugal or even Morocco in the last 16, so then they're into quarterfinals. And they're a wily old group. They're tough, and they won't be any walkover. And there's a bit of bite, pardon the pun, about them. And I think they're
What's Suarez going to do in this World Cup? If you think of 2010, he cleared one off the line with his hand. He bit someone in 2014. What's he going to do?
Hopefully this World Cup he'll just start scoring goals and maybe assisting goals. But look, he's a very talented player. There's obviously a bit of a kink with him. But I think Uruguay, if you're looking at a dark horse and you want a bit of value, 28-1, I think it represents a bit of decent each way value.
Without question, I'm not sure if I'm right in saying this, but it seems that Timo Werner is like the trendiest bet at this year's World Cup for Golden Boot.
Hipster's bet.
The hipster's bet. I'm not sure I think it's gone beyond the point of hipsterism at this point. Like my dad is betting on Timo Werner, so that's not a hipster bet.
Yeah. Well, look, he is scoring goals. He's a young player. You would expect the way Germany play that they will create chances for him. I think I said it here yesterday, though. I'm just a little bit surprised Sané's not in the squad. I think he would have been a perfect foil for Werner. I still feel Muller will chip in with a couple of German goals. But I think he's 14-1, Werner. The last I checked, to be top scorer. I'm sticking with Neymar. I just think Neymar's coming into this tournament. He's fresh. He's fit. He looks very hungry. I think Brazil have a point to prove after what happened 4 years ago. He's going to play every game. To back up your point, he's going to take their penalties. He's going to take their free kicks. And I think Brazil's group would hopefully, if you're backing Neymar like I have already, he's a 9-1 joint favourite now, but I think he should leave the group hopefully with at least 3 goals. That's what I'm aiming for in terms of trying to win the top goal scorer. I think you're going to have at least 3 coming out of your group to win the tournament, as in top goal scorer of the tournament.
Lewandowski as well. I know we've been talking about Lewandowski in the office. A few of the lads kind of fancy him. And Milik is playing up front with him for Poland. He's back from injury. A lot of what Poland do rests on Lewandowski's shoulders, and he kind of disappointed us in the Champions League for Bayern Munich in the big games. But when you look at Poland's group, Senegal, Colombia, Japan, he can score against all those teams.
Yeah, I mean, they've been given quite a handy group in terms of, you look at Poland, you would fancy them to probably top that pool, Group H. Japan, Senegal might put it up to the Poles, are a very physical side.
Yeah.
But I think Lewandowski, if you're looking at him, I'd be looking at top Polish scorer. Yes, he's a shade of odds on to be top Polish scorer, but I don't see any other Polish player outscoring Lewandowski for the tournament.
We'll get into that group in just a moment, as I say, when we're predicting the tournament. There's a good comment in here from Cathal Geraghty on Facebook. Remember to keep your comments coming in. What about Argentina? Messi, Aguero, Higuain and Dybala. They are top heavy, the Dolly Parton team of the tournament. We'll move quickly on to tonight's game. We'll chat about Argentina again in a moment. They are like one of the most interesting teams to talk about, because it could go the predictions are ranging from they're going to get knocked out in the group stage to they're going to win the entire thing. So we'll come back to them in just a moment. But we just want to finish up on tonight's game, really, because we've got a €50 charity bet every day, Leon.
We do indeed.
And today, for me, it's going to be going on Russia, because BoyleSports are offering evens on Russia to beat Saudi Arabia tonight.
Yeah, well, look, that's our first game. A boost for offtheball.com/BoyleSports. They're 4-9, the Russians. But if you log on using that URL, you can get Russia at even money. Now, looking at Russia, you would say they're not the greatest of sides, but hosts 20 out of 21 have got past the first round. And I think Russia will have a lot of help. That's all I'd say from different angles on the pitch and outside the pitch. I think Russia will get into the knockout stages. They don't really have a lot of world-class players. I mean, they've called up a 38-year-old defender. I'll let John stick to pronunciations of those names, but to bring him back into the fold goes to show you how much they're struggling at the back. I think the one player, Zagayev, I think is how you pronounce his name. He got 3 goals in Euro 2012.
Yeah, Zagayev, yeah.
He's had a couple of injury problems, but when he's fit, he's a very influential player for Russia. Zagayev.
I gotta go, Tommy.
He can set up goals. He's able to score goals, and I think he's their key man. However, they've no win in 7 games. So you'd look at this and say Saudi Arabia, they only lost 2-1 to Germany, but they've conceded 7 goals in their last 3 games. So if Russia can get off to a win, I fully expect them to make it through into the knockout stages.
We've just lost John Duggan there. You probably overheard him there. I think the Russian police have got to John Duggan at this late stage. He's been Skyping suspiciously outside the Luzhniki Stadium for far too long. Those horses and the cops on top of them have got to him. Leon, you're going to stay with us for just a moment, because we're going to look through some of these groups, because we never got the moment yesterday with all the crap that was going on with Spain to actually just look through and predict exactly how this World Cup is going to pan out. So it's just going to be very briefly kind of Group A, through to Group H. Group A obviously starts tonight, Russia against Saudi Arabia. Egypt and Uruguay in there at the moment. I'm not sure who you guys are tipping to go for 1 and 2 from Group A.
I'm going to go with Uruguay to win it, and it would all depend on Mo Salah in terms of Egypt's chances. But I just fear for Egypt and Saudi Arabia with the host nation. A lot will be done to try and get them into the last 16.
I've actually planned out how the whole World Cup is going to...
Right, okay. So who have we got from Group A?
I've actually gone for Uruguay to win it and Russia.
Right, okay. A bit of a change there.
There's a lot of, the weight of the world is on Mo Salah's dodgy shoulder. And, he might be back, but how fit is he going to be? They don't score that many goals. And I just think you just can't underestimate the power of being the host.
Of course, and also first game for Egypt is Uruguay. It's their toughest game, and if they don't have Mo Salah, if he's going to miss one game, it's obviously going to be Uruguay that he's going to miss, and that'll be a huge blow. So I can see arguments to both of them. Uruguay, Egypt for me though at the moment. Group B then is the Portugal, Spain, Morocco, Iran group. Does anybody have the balls to go for Morocco here?
I'd give them a squeak to finish second. to Spain. I just think this Portuguese side is definitely on the wrong side of 30. They've got a lot of ageing players. Yes, Ronaldo can still do it on any given day without a shadow of a doubt, as he's proved. But I think Spain will win it. I'd like to see Morocco finish ahead of Portugal, but I don't know. It's going to be close.
So you're calling Spain and Portugal is what I'm getting here?
Probably just
Spain,
Portugal.
You'd have to go with Spain and Portugal. I just can't wait to see Spain against Portugal. Just Sergio Ramos up against Cristiano Ronaldo, and what will Fernando Hierro be like? What kind of team selection is he going to go with? Is he going to make any changes?
Yeah.
The probable 11 that we thought was going to start tomorrow night.
I'd say he'll probably stick roughly to what the previous coach was doing. I don't think he's going to change it too much because they are unbeaten in I don't know how many games.
20 games.
20 games.
Yeah, so they seem very settled. The first 11 is extremely settled. They've got good players to come off the bench should they need. And I think for his first game against probably your biggest rival in the group, stick to what you know and stick to what the players know.
Yeah, for sure. Group C is one of the interesting ones, probably my second favourite group in it after Group H. It's France, Australia, Peru and Denmark. I presume we're all going for France as group winners here?
Yeah, I've got France. I've gone for Denmark. Obviously, we know the damage that Christian Eriksen can do, unfortunately. It could have been us, but I think Peru will be, they'll test France and Denmark, especially the boost that they have now. Guerrero's back after the drugs ban was lifted. Australia, I wouldn't hold out much hope for them. I think, they seem to get so many chances to get into the World Cup. They only finished third in their group. They played in playoffs, and Van Marwijk is in there now, and he only took over in November after they had qualified. So I think it's going to be France and Denmark. Denmark are actually, I'm interested to see how they're going to do. No Nicklas Bentner though.
I know, that's the key thing, isn't it? That is key. How can they possibly fare without him? Are you going for Denmark as your number 2 there as well, Leon?
I think I am, and I think in Christian Eriksen we've got a truly world-class player. And as we saw, if you give him a bit of time, a bit of space, he will absolutely cause you nightmares, as the Irish boys will attest to. So I think France, they could go really well in this competition, as I've already said. So France to win and Denmark to be second. Group D.
Group of death.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Oh God. I think this is the group where we might see an upset.
Yeah.
We might see, like Croatia have got very good players, very technically.
Old,
they are old.
They are old.
And this is probably their last hurrah. I'm going to go with Nigeria to finish second to Argentina here.
Right, okay.
I can see Nigeria causing Croatia problems. Nigeria have got a lot of pace. And I think, going back to your point with the Croatian side aging, I think Nigeria will cause them a lot of issues. And Argentina really would need to win this group if they want to have any aspirations of going further down the line. Because I think when you finish second here, you could come into potential issues come the quarterfinals.
I'm looking forward to seeing Iceland. I mean, obviously, they're not really going to be a surprise package because of what they did at the Euros, but I would still find it hard to not back Argentina to win the group. I would still go towards Croatia, just having that bit more experience. The talk is with Nigeria, their goalkeeper, they're going to have to start a 19-year-old goalkeeper. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out for them.
And just in terms of Iceland, we did bring over Thor from Game of Thrones,
course, yeah.
the mountain, the world's strongest man. For anyone out there, if they have a 20 quid bet on any market in relation to Iceland, you're going to be in with a chance of winning a fantastic trip over to Iceland for 2 on BoyleSports.com. Check it out.
Any bet on Iceland?
Any bet on Iceland, win, first goal score, whatever you think, for 20 quid, you'll be in with a great chance of getting a VIP trip to Iceland with a guest.
There you go. A lot of people getting in touch as well just to see how they can avail of that 25 to 1 offer on Friday. It's offtheball.com/BoyleSports and details there as well about the evens bet on Russia tonight. Group E then, the other half of the draw, it's Brazil, Switzerland, Costa Rica, Serbia. We'll go quickly through this one because I presume everybody's going for Brazil as number 1.
Yeah.
Who is going to be runner-up in this group?
I've gone for Serbia. Obviously, they were in our group, but things have changed. They got rid of their manager because he didn't seem to want to play Milinkovic-Savic, who is the Lazio midfielder, who never played in the qualifying campaign, but he's in. I can't wait to see him play. I presume he's going to start. And I just think that they've got some really good players. Obviously, they've got Matic, Kolarov, Mitrovic, I think even Tadic. They're quite a solid team. I can see them finishing second in that group.
They're solid enough, but I thought we posed them enough problems. And I think Switzerland, who have plenty of goals about them, I think they might just nick second behind Brazil.
Switzerland, cool. Group F then, we're going to leave it at the group stages for today at the end, and then we'll see how accurate they are, because of course it's the start of the group stages. So it's Germany, Mexico, Sweden, South Korea in Group F. It's going to be a walk in the park here for Germany, but who's going to finish second in that group?
I've gone for Mexico.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's strange to have such consensus on a group here where I'm not sure, are Sweden favoured over Mexico in this group? I'm not sure how it's...
Slightly, but excuse me, I think Sweden as well. We struggle to find an Ibrahimovic in their squad. I don't really know where their goals are going to come from, but I think Mexico with Hernandez, he's always likely to pop up with a couple of goals. So I think for that reason, I think they might
watch out for Lozano as well, the PSV playmaker. He's going to be, I kind of think he'd be one of the young players to watch out for.
Right, okay. Between him and the guy from Serbia, what's it, Milinkovic-Savic?
Yeah, SMS.
SMS.
Short.
There you go. You've read your 5 young kids to watch out for at the World Cup 2018 articles. Group G is Belgium, England's group. What order are they going to finish in? Unless somebody's shouting for Tunisia here.
No, I think it's going to be Belgium topping the group, and I think England will finish second. I think it's going to come down to the last game. This group has been set up nicely, but I think Belgium, I don't know how many starters will be playing in the Premier League next season, but I think they'll have 6 or 7 players that we all know, the English side will know. But I just look at Hazard and De Bruyne and Lukaku, and I look at their back four, and I look at their keeper, Courtois. I think it's a better setup than what England have.
Yeah, for sure. Group H then, it's definitely not your dad's group. It is the hipsters group. It is Poland, Senegal, Colombia, Japan. There's so many...
This is the toughest one to call.
It really is. It's the one I'm most looking forward to. Like the predictions range wildly, but the consensus, if you can actually achieve consensus in this group, seems to be that Japan aren't going to be in the mix.
No.
So it seems that it's going to be between Poland, Senegal and Colombia for those last 2 positions, those first 2 positions.
I'm going Colombia to win it, and I'm going for Senegal.
Okay.
At second.
I agree with you with Senegal, but I think Poland and Senegal will get out of the group. I don't know what way they're going to finish, but for this argument, I'll go Senegal first, Poland second.
Right, okay. It seems that we've got our predictions there for the group stages. We'll remind you of them in a couple of days. Leon, you're going to be in with us every day with thanks to BoyleSports. We might just get your opinion on earliest opening day memories, because that's a theme we're going to be chatting about for the rest of the programme. Of course, today, Russia, Saudi Arabia. Who knows if it'll go down in the annals of great opening day fixtures. Stranger things have happened. We've talked about Maradona, his failure at Italia 90 really in the opening day. What's your earliest opening day memory?
Yeah, I suppose looking at it from an Irish perspective, it's probably that Ray Houghton goal in Giant Stadium against Italy. I think probably that's the one to me that just stands out from an Irish perspective. First goal, in that tournament. Yeah. I really love that.
It's good that you brought up Ireland, because that ties in perfectly with the video I'm about to show to Leon. Thank you very much. We'll chat to you again tomorrow. Remember, hop on to offtheball.com/BoyleSports for those unbelievable offers at the moment. Russia tonight, that's our €50 charity bet. Evens for them to beat Saudi Arabia. 25-1 for new customers to BoyleSports at the moment on any goal to be scored in Spain against Portugal on Friday, which is probably going to happen. So we spoke to Ronnie Whelan and Ray Houghton at our BoyleSports Roadshow recently, and Ronnie had this great story about Ray's triumphant return from Euro 88. See what you think.
But we had a few more pints in the airport, and we eventually got on the plane, and we were like second row from the front. So we take off, and we're only 5 minutes into the air, and Ray goes, I need the toilet. He said, I've got to go to the toilet. I said, Ray, the light's on, you can't go. And he just was adamant, and he's climbing over me, right? So he climbs over me, and he gets up out of his chair, and the toilet is there. So I'm thinking he's going to go to the toilet, and he takes one step towards the toilet, and then he turns around, and then the whole plane is packed. And he looks down the plane and he goes, who put the ball in the England net?
Carry on with the rest.
No, leave it
I should have had that other pint, let me tell you. I was all right up until that last pint.
Yeah. Do you go...
And then Ronnie got up just before they landed and went, who put the ball in the Russian net?
Do you ever go through a week where you don't hear who put the ball in the English net?
Well, I'm often asked what's your favourite goal between the one against England and the one against Italy. For me, it's quite easy. It's the one against England. First international goal. First time Ireland ever been to a major tournament. Played against England. So it's quite an easy one.
Yeah, that's from our BoyleSports show recently there. Euro 88 memories galore. You can check all that out on youtube.com. As you can see, our studio has increased in size. We've got Darren Cleary and Nathan Murphy with us. How are things?
Oh,
what? It's just
Increasing
Or 3
numbers.
people, now there's 4 people. Yeah.
Yeah. There's 4 people in the studio. We previously had 3, Nathan. That's all I was saying. Welcome.
Do you want to hit him?
Well, you're near.
You're very welcome to the studio. Like, what's the excitement levels like? Is there kind of like an opening day sort of bug that you get at this point?
Well, I've been frantically running around town putting on my last minute bets. I've entered 6 different fantasy football teams over the last 4 hours. Yeah, I think I'm pretty hyped right now.
Yeah, I think you
Maybe
are.
not so much about Russia, Saudi Arabia, but I'll get into that inside 5 minutes. But just about 3 games tomorrow.
Yeah.
4 games on Saturday.
For the 4 games on Saturday it's teed up to be just a beautiful day of sport on Saturday, just from 11 a.m. right the way through to the last one at like 7 o'clock, isn't it?
Are you going to watch Ireland, Australia in the rugby, or Australia, France in the football?
Both.
You can watch
Both,
both.
yeah.
2 screens, man.
You can 2 screen it.
This is your first World Cup.
Which is going to get the big screen, which is going to get the small screen is the question.
Ireland,
but-
Australia gets the big screen.
No, France. You got to dedicate yourself wholeheartedly to the World Cup. You got to go all in because you never know when you're going to miss the moment.
Yeah, and also as well, the analysis around the World Cup, these beautiful panoramic shots and all that sort of stuff, that's important as well. You can't really be looking at another game during halftime and all that sort of stuff. We did bring you in to chat about opening day and your memories of opening day. Darren, we'll start with you because yours is a lot more recent than I would have thought.
Yeah, I was born in 89, so I don't remember anything from 94. I could pretend that I do. I really don't. I remember flashes of 98, but it's not really in any kind of order. Like, I remember the golden goal for France to make it through the round of 16. I remember that really vividly of just, oh, that's it, it's over. But it should continue. It's just 1 goal, it's finished. I remember England kind of not really choking. I remember Michael Owen being kind of exploding onto the scene there, David Beckham ruining it for everyone and getting booted off against Argentina.
Well, Diego Simeone ruining it for everyone.
Well, yeah, Beckham ruined it for himself. But yeah, I remember glimpses of 98, but 02 is the first one where everything is really, really vivid. I'm about 12 or 13. Things just, the Ireland games in particular, I remember every pass, I remember every push, I remember every booking, every shot. I vividly remember being in a pub at 6:45 watching Ireland against Cameroon, the old Kavanagh's, it's gone now, where you had to walk around the back door and knock 3 times and they'd let you come in. And I wasn't obviously drinking because I was 13 years of age, but once the Matt Holland equaliser went in, I was fairly much covered in pints.
Well, there you go. That's one way to be introduced to the wonders of alcohol.
They were on me, not in me.
Good story from Tommy here in the producer's box. He said that he was allowed to bring his bed into the living room for the 2002 World Cup for the entire month. That's on top of his awful story of not being allowed to watch Germany versus Ireland. His teacher, Tommy's teacher, didn't allow their class to watch Germany versus Ireland, which I just feel sorry for. But
I did that for the Copa America, I think, in 1997.
Wow, that's niche.
Brought my bed into the sitting room so I could stay up and watch all the games.
What channel was that on?
Channel 4?
I could have been Channel 4, but they showed every match, and all the matches were on 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It was I was probably about 14, 15 when I was trying to prove my footballing nerd credentials.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much the enjoyment of watching the match, it was being able to say that I stayed up to watch the match.
When you say you brought your bed in, I presume you just mean a duvet.
Yeah, a duvet.
I just
pillow.
yeah.
Tommy had the mattress and the whole the base was in there as well. Like, he kept it in there till 2010 too.
Before we get on to what your one is, Ned, we should just chat, because 2002 has been brought up. It's the opening games we want to talk about. We all remember the Ireland games, but it is France-Senegal in 2002, which for me, funnily enough, is actually the first opening game that I remember as well. I'm very sorry. But it is the same notion that Phil brought up earlier on, the whole invincibility nature of being a kid watching the World Cup champions. And it's like, hold on a minute, how is it possible that upsets happen in sport? The whole idea of an upset is very alien to you until it actually happens, until you see Bouba Diop actually following up Fabien Barthez fumble, after you see David Trezeguet hit the post and Thierry Henry hit the post, and you can see France's World Cup dreams of retaining their title just flutter away immediately. That's what an opening game should be. It's a realisation, it's kind of an arrival that this is football, isn't it?
Where'd you watch it? Just at home?
At home, yeah. It was. I'm not sure what time of the day it was on. I don't remember.
I was in Greece, and it was around midday Greek time, which would be...
Sounds about right.
Would be about 2 hours. There's 2 hours difference. Because I was meant to be working that day. I had a really great job where you sort of climb up the mountains and pick out rocks and throw them down to the bottom of the hill and then stack them into a van.
Been rock picking
so
for a summer.
Funnily enough, I slept in that day and I was told, you've lost your job. And I was thinking, great. It's the first day of the World Cup. I'll go down and watch France and Senegal with the lads and sit by the pool, and they had screens around it. And I think that was more enjoyable than watching it at home.
What happened to you with that? That was the summer
Wait, you were rock picking in Greece?
Yeah.
And how does that job end up?
It didn't end up very well because I got fired because I went out the night before.
What was the point of the rock picking? That's
Oh, your mum, the guy who basically owned the island, Dimitri was his name.
of course it was.
Sorry. He was building a house, so we had to just basically do what he told us. So we were brought, you had to walk up the top of a mountain in scorching heat and work for about 8 or 9 hours and get paid pittance. So when I got fired, I wasn't...
That's called slavery, Phil.
I was going to say, this sounds a bit dodgy.
Yeah, Phil.
Well, luckily I got fired and I got to watch the game.
You got to watch, exactly. Your happy days for unemployment, I guess, is what 2002 tells us all right there. What's your first opening day memory?
I remember Italian 90, but I don't remember the opening game. I remember Kevin Sheedy doing the very cliched thing of running outside and want to be Kevin Sheedy. I don't know if I remember the opening day of USA 94 or if I just have seen enough.
Do you remember who was playing in it?
Diana Ross. Was it the USA?
No, it was Germany against Bolivia.
Ah, yes, yeah.
Klinsmann scores after an absolute howler from the Bolivian goalkeeper. But of course, 94 is remembered, the opening day is remembered for one thing and one thing only, and that is that woman right there, Diana Ross.
Missing the penalty,
which...
for the best of us, Nathan.
It was. It could have easily happened to the best of us. Like, who knows? Maybe that was all planned, the missing of the penalty. Do we know for sure that that was all
be
part of the
talking
act?
about it still 24 years later? Oh my God, 24 years later.
Yeah, the conspiracy of Diana Ross. So you don't remember Germany, Bolivia, you were kind of just in your own little Ireland bubble.
I was very much in my own little Ireland bubble. I kind of remember Brazil against Scotland more because of the hype around Scotland and at the time obviously Brazil were the reigning world champions and there was still this aura around Brazil and the style of football that they might play and Ronaldo. But 2002 is the one that stands out results-wise, and it's a terrible shame that they moved away from having the defending champions playing the opening game because the last 2 or 3 have just been really dull affairs, and today will probably be the same. The one I remember best of all was Germany-Costa Rica 2006 because I went to that World Cup, I was in Dortmund in the fan zone watching the match. There was about 45,000 people in the fan zone. It was 25 degrees. I was 23. I was young, free and single.
Pining for those days.
It was a special time. I went supporting to 2006, supporting Trinidad and Tobago. A friend of mine is from Trinidad, so he got us tickets for all the games. So we spent 10 days travelling Germany, supporting Trinidad.
That's the dream right there.
Glorious times.
Glorious times indeed.
You were mentioning the fact that it's great that the world champions could get stuffed on the first day or have their thing derailed. Well, now we kind of get the home team. It would be just as exciting this year if Russia kind of have some kind of fumble at the first hurdle.
Yeah, for very, very different reasons.
Very different reasons.
No, what would be more exciting was if Russia came out and won 5-0.
Yeah.
And were these 6'2", built like absolute tanks.
Yeah.
Just machines going out, killing all before them.
Sergei Ignashevich is actually 16 years old. Yeah. Everything is coming up Russia's way. Like the 2006 one, it's actually one of our options on our poll, which I think is actually closed now. We'll get a screenshot up in a moment of the results, and that was one of the 3 options that we picked for the best opening day World Cup games. And there wasn't exactly a whole pile to choose from. You had Senegal beating France, and you had the Italia 91. The rest of them,
Senegal, France wins surely.
Well, I'm not sure. We'll get it up in a second there. I actually haven't seen it. Germany Costa Rica is an amazing game.
The quality of the goals in the German goals that they were just.
Thorsten Frings, his screamer. Well, I think the Frings goal was better. Frings goal was better. There was no question about it. I don't see how anybody can even deem the Philip Lahm goal to be better in that occasion. Like, Lahm's goal was amazing because it was like, oh crap, this fullback is he's one of the world's best. I don't think we have realised how good Philip Lahm was until that goal. And it was kind of a shock. It's the first goal of the World Cup and all that sort of stuff. And then Frings is kind of forgotten about because it was the 4th goal, wasn't it? Or was it the 3rd goal? I can't remember. But it's later on in the game. It's just a needle in a haystack of amazing stuff that happened in that match. And anyway, for me, Thorsten Frings, best World Cup opening goal ever. But just in terms of trivia, and I'm not sure, I was going to put this in the crappy quiz tomorrow, but I'm not going to do it because I'm going to do it now. In terms of the opening games at the start, because this was a thing that was brought in 1966 for the first time. Before that, it was all concurrent fixtures. There was a run of 4 games in a row with 0 goals. So England kind of came along in 66 and they were like, this is our World Cup. We're going to play a game on our own at the very start of the tournament. 0-0. Mexico, Soviet Union, 0-0. 4 years later, Brazil, and then West Germany, 4 years, and 4 years after that, all 0-0. So we had to wait until 1982 for our first goal in an opening game. So I'm not sure what that means in terms of omens. Absolutely nothing is what it means, really. But Belgium beating Argentina in 1982 would have been the other contender for kind of a shot.
Today could easily be 0-0. This is 2 of the 3 worst teams in the competition, more than likely, meeting. So you just feel it's going to be a very dull affair. I have gone and backed Saudi Arabia, I just think.
Really?
What did you get on that? 7-1 or something?
9-1. Because you look at the rest of the weekend, I think Iceland are around 10-1 to beat Argentina, Australia around 11-1 to beat France. Saudi Arabia are a hell of a lot closer than either of those sides to Russia. And we don't know what sort of Russia is going to turn up. So I'm not sure if it will happen. I just think it is the outstanding bet.
I prefer Phil's logic that they're both so bad they might actually produce something good.
Yeah, and Akinfeev is playing in goal, and we know he can't really.
Yeah, neither team can defend.
The myth of Akinfeev has sort of finally been bust over the past couple of years.
But he's still their best player.
Well, that's what that is the worry. He has finally brought an end to that ridiculous
He's their
stat
superstar.
of almost 50 Champions League games without keeping a clean sheet for CSKA Moscow. But he's a really bloody average keeper.
We've got a winner in our poll. Let's bring it up on screen. I think 2002, and Senegal wins. 41% in second place is Argentina 0, Cameroon 1 from 1990, and with 24% is 2006, Germany 4, Costa Rica 2. So there really are only 3 options given the score of the other percentage there. One last question on opening days. Is this Russia team worse than the South Africa team in 2010?
I guess we'll find out in about 4 hours.
Is this the worst team that we've ever seen in an opening game of a World Cup?
You sort of felt that South Africa were going to be able to run on some sort of emotion that would take them to a slightly higher level. I'm not sure with this Russian team if the emotion will be a positive thing or just this weight of pressure, of expectation from the government, from the support, from the hundreds of millions of people, whether it'll actually weigh them down. I think they could be the dullest hosts, that actually they don't really do anything. They draw 2 games 0-0 and they go out with a whimper.
I just have visions of what happened in Rocky IV, where Drago couldn't get Rocky out of the ring and they came down and said, "You trained this guy. What are you doing?" Like Vladimir Putin could come down and say, "What have you been doing the last few years?"
Yeah.
You know, the whole world is watching. So, I don't know, I just think the fact that they're hosts, they're going to get out of the group somehow.
Somehow. Another sinister tone in that. Darren, what do you think is going to happen with Russia?
I genuinely think that they'll surprise us all. I don't think they'll be actually nervous. I think they'll adopt a lads, it's only Saudi Arabia mentality and come out and stuff them. I think Nathan might be onto something with his, they win 3 or 4-0.
Well, it is a 4 o'clock kickoff. The opening ceremony kicks off at 3:30. It's Robbie Williams. Let's hope it lives up to Diana Ross. And the really weird, YouTube this, is the 1998 World Cup opening ceremony. It's the strangest thing you'll ever watch. You'll feel you're on some sort of trip or something when you watch it. I don't recall that opening ceremony whatsoever. It's very, very strange. Robbie Williams, I don't think is going to bring the strangeness to that level, but he is performing at the opening ceremony at 3:30. Russia, Saudi Arabia at 4 o'clock. Remember to go on to offtheball.com/BoyleSports for all the good offers and that sort of stuff. Russia at evens is better today, and that's where our charity money is going. We're going to be back tomorrow at the earlier time of around midday, an hour before the first game kicks off. OTB AM is live from 7:45 AM tomorrow, but next on Off the Ball is going to be our radio show at 7 o'clock tonight on News Talk and all our social channels. Join Nathan and the lads at that point. John Giles at 7:30 is the feature of that show. We'll chat to you then. Good luck.